Hey everyone, it's Nick Valenti with NJ Valenti Art, and in today's video we are going to color our butterfly in vector. I will have the vector inks file in the description below for you to download and follow along on your own. Alright, let's get to it. So to start off, this is simply one way of coloring in vector. It works with certain types of illustrations that may not have closed paths. For instance, if we take this wing shape here, and if we were to fill it in color, you can see the results are less than ideal. There are ways of layering vector art to make this work, but I'll share that method in another video. For now, this method would be more for complicated drawings, even more so than this butterfly here. But to get started, essentially what we're going to do is we've got our line work on these three top layers here. So I'm going to go ahead and create a layer and drag it underneath our line art. I can even lock these layers if I'd like to make sure I don't accidentally grab any of them later. Drag that layer down here. Now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating our colored shapes under the line art. So what we could essentially do is come in here with the pen tool, and then we would start just staying in the middle of our vector lines here. You could do half at a time, or you could go ahead and do the whole shape. We'll kill that black stroke. Well, a nice light blue for now. Right now we'll just go ahead and get some base colors in here, and then we could come back and worry about exactly what colors we want to make our butterfly. You can choose any color you like as we go along here. So you can see I'm just kind of retracing our steps and going back over the vector ink lines, and then we're filling the shape, so this is creating a filled shape underneath the line art. So if we were to get rid of the inks for the body, you can see how now we have just these flat color shapes. And we're going to go ahead and keep working in that method, and I'll go ahead and I'll speed this up just a little bit. So what I'm going to do here is I want to duplicate each one of these wings to the other side. But first I want to go ahead and add a gradient. I'm going to add a gradient to each one separately. So we'll start off by grabbing the gradient tool, and I'm going to drag from the outside of the wing towards the inside. So that'll work. So I'll come up here, and we'll want to darken this up just a little bit, maybe make this a little bit of a darker. So perhaps we kind of get a little bit closer to purple, lighten that up a little bit maybe. Do something maybe like that. I do want to go ahead, we can go ahead and just apply that to this as well. I want to drag both of these wing shapes, so holding control I'll select both shapes, and I'll bring them under the body shapes there. Alright. Now holding with both of these selected, if I hold Alt and Shift, Alt will duplicate the shapes, Shift will keep the shapes directly in line, and then I could come up here and click on Flip Horizontal, continuing to hold Shift and slide those into place. Oh, it actually looks pretty good. Bump back over here. Seeing that, I kind of wanted to maybe keep that body color a little bit, but we'll go ahead and do something similar to these shapes as well. Make the body more of a teal. So I do have these other shapes. I'm going to come in here and mess around with as well. Actually, these up here, I want to go ahead and make these more purple. Oh, there you go. We got the base colors there now. Now we can come in and we'll start selecting these shapes and adding a secondary layer of color to it. I'd like to go ahead and add some shadows and some light to our butterfly here. I'm going to go ahead and start with the wings. So I'm going to grab our pen tool here and starting there, I just want to kind of follow this curve. Hold Control and pull back that node handle. Here I'm thinking the light is going to be coming directly from the top, so I want the bottom sides of the wings and then eventually the body as well to be in shadow. I'll just go ahead and create this shape on the outside. We get a nice fairly light purple, and I'm going to come up here to our layer options. I'm going to change this to multiply. Now I'm going to drag this new shadow shape down to our wing. I'm going to place it inside our wing shape, thus clipping it into the wing shape here. You can see how now it's clipped into this shape. I'm going to mess around with make it just a little bit. There you go, something like that. Yeah, that looks pretty good for right now. Now, since I'm working in this wing here, I'll go ahead and create the highlight at the top of the wing as well. So back to my pen tool. And since the light's coming from the top, it'll be hitting the very top of the wing. Oops. And we'll go ahead and just... Gotta be careful with those node handles, and go ahead and do that. I'm going to make this kind of more of like an orange, nice and bright, and I'm going to come into our layer options and turn that to soft light. Now coming back down to our shadow shape that we just created, I'm going to come into our quick FX here and come down to Gaussian blur, and this is a technique that I like to use quite often. I'll add a blur to this, which will kind of help it smooth out, and it'll have a smoother transition. I like that look. And then as well too, I'll come up here into the rest of our layer effects options. I'll click on this cog wheel and click scale with object. That way, in case we want to increase the size or decrease the size of our butterfly at any point, all of these effects will scale the same. So I'll go ahead and drag. An easy way to get the same layer effects options to another layer or another curve is to simply grab the FX and drag, and it will then set the same effects to the other curve. So we've got a pretty nice, more three-dimensional looking wing there at least. And so I'm going to come down here and I'm going to add a shadow shape to the bottom wing as well. Since this one's tucked down there, probably don't need to worry about a highlight as much, so we'll just kind of work this around. See if we can even come up here a little bit with it. Top wing casting a shadow onto the bottom wing there. Something like that could work. I'll go ahead and drag this shadow shape down. There we go. Something kind of like that. We can adjust these nodes a little bit if we'd like. Maybe kind of push that shape there a little bit. Right, something more like that. I'll grab this effects here, drag that down as well to get the same blur. Go, something maybe like that. So now what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm actually going to come in here and I'll delete these two wing shapes, and then I'll grab these two shapes, again using Alt and Shift, flip horizontal, holding shift to keep them in line. And we'll move those right over there. I'm trying to line these up a little bit better. Okay, so there you go. We've got some shape to our wings. I'm going to go ahead and do something similar to the body. I'm just going to grab the pen tool again. I'm going to stick to a similar shadow there. If that'll work. Go ahead and clip it into that body shape, and then we'll do the same down here. Alright. I'll select that to multiply as well. Pull that out. I might actually go ahead and leave the harder shadow lines on the body as opposed to using the Gaussian blur, just to give it a little bit of separation from the wings. Come in here. Now this shape here, since these are three separate shapes here, I'm going to have to take this one shape and move it around a little bit. So I will have to duplicate the shadow shape. Okay, something like that. So there you go. This is, pretty straightforward coloring. All we've really done here is add some simple gradient colors, flat colors, and we've come in with some shadow and highlights to kind of make it just pop a little bit more. What I will do is I'll add a highlight to the top of our butterfly's head here. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in these shapes here. And I'm going to do what we've been doing this whole time so far, is I'm going to create a gradient color under the line art. And you just work our way around this shape here. And for this, I'm thinking I'm going to try more of a purple. Maybe something to complement some of the color that we have in the wings. Let's take a look. Something even like that, nice and light. There you go. So I'll go ahead and do the same up here. Select and duplicate and shift these over. So that's just to add a little more variety. And then what I could do is I could select all 4 of these and I'll add a gradient to all 4 of them. Come up here, change this blue, make it a little bit more purple or pink like that. That's a nice look there. So we'll go ahead and do that. Something kind of make it pop a little bit more. And with that gradient, we'll probably go ahead and use that gradient to fill in these other little bits of the wing. So there's actually a couple of different ways that we can go ahead and handle coloring these inside shapes to the wings. So I've got them set up on its own separate layer. So what we could do is we could duplicate that layer and now drag the new layer under our, well, we'll leave it over our colored layer, but below our ink layer. And then you could come in here and select any of these shapes and simply fill them with whatever fill you want. All right, so we could select each of these and then just select our fill and go about it that way. Which is what you would do in most cases. We can also, in this case here, we could use Affinity Designer's, one of Affinity Designer's new tools in their 2.1 update, and that is the Vector Fill tool here. If you can't find the Vector Fill tool, that is up under, go to View, Customize Tools, and you'll find it sitting in this panel here, which you can then simply click and drag it into your main bar. But this is it here. It looks like a little paint bucket with some vector nodes on it and whatnot. So by clicking that, we can simply select what color we would want. So this would go with the gradient, and then you can see how each closed path has this blue line around it, showing what we can fill with the Vector Fill tool. And you'd be able to come in here and simply click and fill. Now, since this is a gradient, it's working as one whole gradient. So what I think I'd like to do is try to just stick to one side and then see how that works. So we can simply go ahead and keep filling these shapes in. I haven't had a chance to use this tool too much. This is one of the first times, but so far it's fairly handy, and I can see how in some of my other work this might come in and be very useful. Certainly makes it a lot easier just to go ahead and click each shape. We'll continue along, and then we'll adjust the gradient after I have these all set in here. You see, even when I hit that shadow shape there by accident, it filled that shadow shape. So this is going to be a cool tool. I think there'll be a lot that we can end up doing with it and finding different ways of using it as well. Alright, so now we've got all the gradients in there. I want to adjust that a little bit, however. Nope, that didn't work like how you would expect it to work. So you just have to reselect the gradient there in order to rework it. I'm going to do something like that. Looks kind of nice. Just drag this around a little bit. So what we could also do, if you wanted to get rid of the strokes, we'll come back up to our main. You need to turn that off. I'm going to turn the strokes off on that one as well. See what that looks like. kind of blends a little much, so I think coming back up here and turning on a layer 1 vector inks and keeping those lines in there might be nice like that. So that about wraps up coloring in vector. Let me know if you liked this follow along series and if you have any other questions. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you found this video helpful. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss any new videos. Until next time.